1, clap.
Oh, that was so in sync.
Yeah, no, that was pretty nice.
I just blew all of like the detectors in the microphone, but
Yeah,
we chillin'.
we chilling.
Alright, how do you want to start this?
It beats me. I don't know. We were looking through our notes, our journaling. We felt like that we could just have a flowing conversation. So
Are the nerves kicking in?
they are, yeah. You know what? When I woke up this morning, I was just thinking about starting this podcast. I've never been in a podcast or done a podcast before. And I was already creating this narrative subconsciously in my mind where I was going to go into this thing. I was going to try my best. I was going to fight for it. And that I was going to fight against my nerves to go through with this. But really, all I have to do is just get out of my own way. Because it's just a construct in my mind.
This is what you were talking about a couple of days ago when we chatted last. You were talking about how you just got to let things be because it only gets worse if you try to interfere.
As much as you can control is as much as you can control.
Yeah, just don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Literally, you're just yapping.
I'm still thinking about it.
No.
Nah.
Genuine thoughts. We don't want those intrusive thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Shit, that was good. Wait, clip that.
I will. Yeah, we could clip that. Welcome to the Intrusive Thoughts podcast. But for anyone who's listening, I want to welcome all of our first-time new viewers, which is everyone.
Yeah, all the 2 people watching this. Hi mom. hi dad. Hope you guys enjoy. Hope you're doing good. Do we want to do a little like self-introduction for each of us?
Sure, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Guys, what is up? Chat, how we doing tonight? It's not tonight, it's the afternoon. But anyways, my name is Gonzalo. I'm the co-host of Genuine Thoughts with Clay. Before I introduce myself, I just want to give a round of applause. A single applause to Clay for setting up this entire podcast. He just set up the entire thing. Got the tripods all set up, the camera and iPhone. What else did you set up? You booked this room and everything, set up this little aesthetic display. So thank you for putting everything together.
Absolutely. It's a little bit off camera, but we typed up a bit of I typed up 2 words, genuine thoughts, put it on a white background with Arial size 20 font, zoomed in a bit, and it's on the monitor.
It looks very nice.
Thank you.
How long did that take you?
It took me a whole 2.5 seconds.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm Clay. For anyone who's tuned into my music, this might be the first time you've heard me talk before, but I can talk. To delve into this, the history of this podcast, to go back a bit, we'd have to go back all the way to 2 days ago when we were talking. We opened up both of our journals and we were just talking about different notes we've taken over the past couple of years, and our flow was going really well. And we thought, how would we just start a podcast? And 2 days later, we have a camera, we have a space, and nothing else is stopping us. So here we are.
We literally just said, let's do it.
Yeah.
We were just chatting. We were yapping about our thoughts, right? Our genuine thoughts. We just opened up more to each other. And we were like, hey, what if we just did the same thing except stuck a camera in our faces? And here we are. That's the legendary origin story of Genuine Thoughts podcast.
Yeah.
So I recently started a little TV show called Curb Your Enthusiasm. Do you know that show?
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes.
Okay, how much of it have you watched?
I watched about 2.5, 3 episodes.
Okay, so you know it's about like the co-creative Seinfeld and stuff like that.
Yes.
Okay. So this is stealing directly from the show, but there was an episode where they were talking about grapes, right? So grapes, they're a fruit, yeah?
I'm pretty sure.
I think they're a fruit. I'm
almost there at that conclusion.
So what, we have grape soda, right? And like cherries too, we have cherries a fruit, we have cherry soda, right? We have a lot of cherry themed stuff, like we have cherry cake, cherry pie.
Another, if we're moving on to going on the topic of soda, another soda that I have not tried yet, but I've seen in the South is Cheerwine. Have you ever heard of Cheerwine before?
Cheerwine?
Cheerwine.
What's that?
I think it's a cherry-based soda. I'm not too sure, but It's
Is it a soda or is it a wine?
it's a soda
A soda, okay.
called wine.
Okay, so it's like root beer. It's called beer. But
Yes.
it's not actually.
One soda that has the word beer in it, one soda that has the word wine in it.
Cheer wine.
Cheer wine.
Was
Yeah.
If you're making like a tier list of real fruit to artificial fruit conversion, banana is definitely like F tier. It's down there.
Where would we put grapes in?
Grapes is like S tier. That's supreme.
S tier?
Yeah, my computer's heating up. Okay.
S stands for grape. That's the first word.
That's crazy. If you like have a G, right, and then you like maneuver it around a little bit, you can sculpt it into an S.
If you bend any letter, you can bend it into another letter, and you could spell anything.
Is that so?
I decided it is so right now.
What about a lowercase I that has like two different lines?
I think we might have to get rid of that dot. We might have to donate that dot
Alright.
and stretch out that lowercase I without the dot into an uppercase I. Because I, without any other letter, just needs to be capitalized. What are we talking?
I don't know. I want to go back to one thing that I mentioned
Yeah.
earlier,
Mhm.
though. So I mentioned raspberries, right? Am I thinking of the right thing? I don't think raspberries exist.
How so?
I don't think that's an actual
I
fruit.
don't think blue raspberries exist. But
Oh, that might be it. Oh, shoot. Wait, yeah, raspberries exist. Blue raspberry, that's the one I'm thinking
I have
of.
blue raspberry candy in my apartment because I kept seeing ads on TikTok for it, and I was like, eventually I just like was fed up and I just bought it just because I wanted to know what I was seeing.
She wanted to get rid of the ad. Be like, I know that this is a good fruit. I already bought it, so.
This is not sponsored, but I'm mentally sponsoring anything that tastes good to me.
Advocator over here for anything. That just goes to show like how much what is it, like production is separated from the consumer. You know.
Yeah. How would, like, if blue raspberries were never a thing in the first place, how did the idea of them form?
How did the idea of them form?
Yeah.
Well, because raspberries themselves are red, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone was probably just like, let's make a blue version of it.
Do you ever start the day a blue raspberry and end a regular raspberry?
Start artificial and then end real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of the process, isn't it?
Maybe it's because like during the day you're more tired.
Mhm.
Wait, no. Rewind. During the day you're more awake and like lucid, so you have more energy to put on that facade.
Yeah.
But you can like portray the person that you want to be to other people.
Yeah.
But by the time it gets to the end of the day, you're just tired, right?
Mhm.
So that facade starts to like dissolve, and you can't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Like while putting that on, you just become yourself, I guess.
Do you ever feel like, though, when you put on that facade, or you feel like you have to put on that facade as a person, that by the end of the day, when you run out of that energy, you're so used to that state of mind that you feel like you can't exit that, even though you don't have the energy to be in that state in the first place?
The fake personality.
The fake personality, or
Yeah.
the personality that feels like it has to cope with its surroundings and not let go.
Dang, that was deep.
That's what we're here for.
I think if you do portray something long enough, you do start to like naturally become that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the meme. It's like the meme that goes, if you pretend to not be depressed, eventually you'll forget that you're actually depressed and you just become happy.
Yeah.
I think that kind of makes sense. Yeah, like you naturally just adapt to that
Mhm.
kind of state that you're in.
Yeah. When you have the intention to be genuine and just be able to let go and just process your thoughts, just like honestly, that you feel like even though you have that intention and will to be genuine, that in your head you don't even realize that you're still stuck in that subconscious feeling of not being able to express that.
Mm-hmm. Like you're kind of deluded.
You're kind of living in two different worlds within your head and within reality.
Mm-hmm. So it's like you wanna, like you said, you have the intention of putting out genuine thoughts. Genuine thoughts.
Genuine thoughts?
You have the intention of putting
Shut
out
up.
genuine thoughts, but like you just can't, kind of.
Yeah.
Because you're used to not doing that, maybe.
If I were to give a genuine thought right now, I feel like I'm struggling to put out genuine thoughts at this moment.
Really? Why is that?
I just feel like there's that block. I just feel like I'm still in the false mindset of wanting to create good content, but I'm like, this is our first podcast, and we're just here, and we're just here to create that conversation, that flow that forgets the passage of time.
Yeah.
But there's something that's subconscious that holds on to that feeling of non-genuinity.
Do you think it's because we're being forced to talk to each other right now since there's cameras and computers here?
I think it's not as
Microphones.
much that, because I feel like we have the ability to detach from the cameras. I think it's more of when you're in a certain level of suffering or discomfort, that it becomes something familiar to you, that even though you have the desire to leave that or move on from that, that it's a mind state that you feel familiar with and almost comfortable with, because despite this current situation that you feel that you're in, that a better reality is still considered the unknown, and how we naturally would fear the unknown.
Better reality is considered the unknown.
Like how a universal fear is fear of the unknown, but how a better reality and a reality with less mental suffering is still the unknown, which objectively, even though it's easier and it's a better reality, that it's still the unknown, and how we naturally will fear the unknown, which is an obstacle into achieving that.
Yeah, because you've gotten so used to being like uncomfortable, and that kind of becomes your natural like returning place, like your borderline. And then since you're used to feeling kind of not so great all the time, the idea of feeling great kind of scares you, because it's like unexplored territory, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of I feel that sometimes when I'm like when I'm very sad, right? I don't want to say depressed because that's too strong of a word, but when I'm sad, sometimes I enjoy being sad more than being happy, just because I'm more used to being sad and it feels more like homey, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it feels like when I am happy, it makes me think I shouldn't be in this state right now, and I also convince myself that it's not gonna last somehow. Because like happiness is kind of temporary, right?
Every feeling is temporary.
Yeah,
right?
eventually it's gonna end, but they like swap back and forth between
Yeah.
sad and happy. So it's always just gonna be like a tug of war battle, right?
Yeah, and I guess you could go for the same thing with how all negative or struggle or all those feelings as well on the other side are going to end too, and how it's just going to go back to the first thing.
We're making intense eye contact right now.
That's
like-
what it's.
Having a like mega mind battle right now.
Yeah, we could literally talk telepathically, if I could form a word.
Telepathically?
Telepathically.
Is that a word?
No, it isn't. I just made it up.
I bet it is a word. Telepathically.
I think it's a word that's used when you feel like you can't say telepathically.
Oh, telepathically.
Like unique New York.
Oh, you guys, if you don't know, I'm a linguist actually.
Oh yeah, linguistics major.
What you did is swap the two plosives in the sound. Mm-hmm. So the T and the P sound, you just swap that. Telepathy. Pelathathy.
Why do you think that happens?
Why do I think that happens?
Like, yeah.
Is that the right one? I think it's called a like a phonological substitution error. So you just swap two sounds with each other. Is this, or it could be anticipation error, I guess. Typically, speech errors like combined together. You can't typically diagnose one error as one thing. It's usually like a combination of multiple ones. But I think you just switch them around. So it's just substitution error. It's like if I said the big fat cow, and then I said the big cow fat or something like that. I don't know. But that could also be a anticipation error because you're anticipating the cow earlier than it is in the sentence. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel like the more I anticipate an idea, or the more I want to express an idea to someone or a group of people, that when it comes my opportunity to do that, I don't want to mess it up. And then I say I just like feel like there's a block that's keeping me from saying it because I feel like I want to express it in a way that can be understood as I'm thinking it.
Yeah.
But that the pressure for that opportunity causes me to struggle to communicate that.
So there is evidence out there that suggests you're more likely to make speech errors when you are under pressure. You know, like self-monitoring your speech.
Yeah.
You're trying to make sure that you want what you're about to say is going to come out the way you want. So if you're self-monitoring too much, then you're more likely to make an error than if you're not. That's why a lot of studies try to get people in like comfortable environments that don't feel like that make them don't feel like they're a participant in a research project. Because then they're more likely to put on like a facade or feel like they have to perform 100% or maybe act differently than they actually would.
Yeah.
But that goes into like the realm of like ethnographic studies and stuff like that, which we don't have to get into. So so you have one participant. You say you have two participants. One goes to a lab and knows that they're going to get like studied on their speech, right? One is at their house and maybe they don't know that they're getting studied specifically on their speech. The person who goes to the lab anticipating that people are going to analyze the way they speak is likely to make more mistakes because they're going to self-monitor more and make sure they don't make mistakes when they're speaking.
So to collect the most accurate data in a study, it's better that the subject doesn't know that they're participating in the study. Or that they're more detached from the experiment.
Yeah,
They're more
ideally,
in their natural
yes,
state.
but participants have to know that they're taking part in a study, like for ethical reasons.
For ethical reasons, yeah.
I think unless it's like a public setting and you're just analyzing people like as they go by. I think there's exceptions to it, but if you're doing like a one-on-one study, I think the person has to know that they're being part of a study.
Do you think this is a thought experiment right now?
Yeah, you're analyzing me.
The idea that, like, the concept of this podcast is not rooted in something more deeper specific than the idea of us just unraveling our thought process in real time. Like, that I did minimal prep for this because the more prep I do, or like the more time in advance I form certain ideas that I want to talk about, that over time, as time passes, you think about those ideas and those ideas will evolve from their original state into something that's not rooted in the original idea, which is why I guess that we're forming these ideas in real time, and that this podcast is more for analyzing the process of our thoughts than the thoughts themselves, so that people can relate.
I see, because if you have a thought in the moment, you don't expand much on it, and it's a genuine thought.
Yeah.
And that kind of like shows the realness of the capability of thinking in a human being, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to if like you prepare subjects and you prepare topics and you know what you're gonna say.
Exactly.
Then like what you're gonna say like grows and it's not as like authentic, I guess.
Yeah, that this is more to show an authentic, just like show like an actual moment rather than a staged entertaining like facade to intend to captivate people. Like that this is just our genuine state of being, and that we're like that this is done in an attempt to connect to other people who feel like they also relate in an honest state of being, whether it's the mind block of communicating their real thoughts or being able to form those thoughts in the first place. But I feel like everyone like has that capacity to understand thoughts. It's not like thoughts are based in the words themselves, but that words are a tool, like a medium to share with one another. I was thinking about this last night, but it was like how thoughts, like deeper thoughts that can't be easily like created or like communicated through words or common vocabulary, can be communicated through story, through like shared experience, shared reality. And over time, the more time passes, the more developed that story is. You have deeper concepts that can't. You could write a book about it, or I guess in enough words you can get close, but truly that thought can't be communicated unless or understood unless you're experiencing it firsthand.
Yeah, because you're kind of limited by language in a sense, right?
Mhm.
Like you can't 100% accurately explain like feelings.
I feel like that can create like a lot of suffering in our generation, especially with like social media and just like in Generation Z and Alpha, how we communicate
Alpha, Sigma.
that we communicate differently than previous generations. How because it can be like harder to communicate or socialize or relate on a deeper level with our thoughts, that can create like a lot of suffering.
Mhm.
I guess because we feel like we have these strong feelings or thoughts or pursuits of action that we want to achieve, but because of our perceived, not actual limitation, but perceived subconscious limitation of how we think and how we communicate, that we feel like we have this energy, we have these thoughts, these ideas, these ambitions or pursuits, but that we're limited to our capacity to communicate them.
Mm-hmm. Brother is preaching right now. So, do you feel like that's mainly a problem nowadays? People not being able to explain their thoughts as well?
I feel like more
Or
so,
has that
yeah.
always been a thing? Are you, like, do you think people were more articulate in like the 1900s maybe?
I guess so. Well, in a way, it's to a certain extent it's uncomparable because of how certain issues we face weren't faced back then, but different issues were faced back then. I mean, there are always constants that constant themes that pertain throughout time, but that because of how we communicate today, that even though we're more connected than ever digitally or just our ability to communicate from anywhere, that because we have that free access, that it makes it more difficult. Just like how with music or media, how we have all these forms of entertainment or access to knowledge or understanding. Like we have free reign to the internet to like to understand the equivalent of the college degrees that we're trying to pursue right now. That this free access to everything makes it less compelling to actually access that information because it's just easily available to us. Why,
So it's like you're purposely...
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. I'm just trying to wrap my head around these complex thoughts that you have. You always bring up such like interesting things that people like never actually talk about. Like a lot of these thoughts I've never heard before from anyone else.
I'd say, for example,
Very original.
like I have a like a rip-off like CD Walkman in my room that I'll like listen to on occasion, not as often anymore. I thought it was like I used it a lot in the first couple weeks after I bought it on Amazon. But if you're like listening to music on a CD or a record, it's like an experience because you can't really easily skip through the song, like scrub through the song, go to your favorite 30 seconds, which I've definitely like walk into class, I listen to that same 30 seconds because like that one part or something. But when you listen to a CD or a vinyl, you're engaging more in an experience that you can't tamper with as much.
Yeah.
And it feels more like an experience because when you're streaming music, you, again, like just like with information or that we were talking about before, you have access to everything. So it feels less, you feel less reward from listening to the music because you could listen to anything on the planet in a second.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
people nowadays don't have to go out and hunt for a specific song or something at like a record store or
Exactly.
a specific album, right?
Yeah.
They just have everything at their fingertips, right?
Yeah, it's like even like when iTunes was more widely used, like that, like I remember when I was in third grade, it's like I heard this song on YouTube or something, and I asked my parents to buy this like $1.99 song, and it was like.
Can we just point out that is crazy?
Yeah.
Paying $2, like imagine paying $2 for every song you have on Spotify now.
Yeah.
That's so bizarre.
No, exactly. Like,
Especially back in the I guess 1900. Wait, what? Not 1900s. What am I saying? In like the 2010s era, kind of, right?
Yeah, even so then, yeah.
That's a lot of money to be paying for songs. Okay.
Yeah. And I would say like even like the factor of paying per song or paying per album created more of an like idea that you just bought a product and that you're not temporarily accessing something that you could leave or forget forever. Like you bought it, that thing is yours. You have more of an obligation to listen to it, understand it, and when like now when a new album drops or like something you've been anticipating drops, like even when it's available, Cardi, please drop I Am Music. Even when it's available, that it's like I'll just scrub to like an interesting part, or I feel like I won't have the patience to listen to it from the intro
Really?
off the bat. Sometimes, like I just want the gratification from the song.
Yeah, that's definitely a common thing nowadays. Is people want instant, like just instant good feeling. You know. Do you think that's? Do you think that like goes along with ADHD nowadays? Like you want instant gratification and you can't like wait a long time to feel it because you've been trained.
Our environment enables so
Lets us have those.
particular habits related to dopamine and gratification. I think that like I guess to a certain extent, like it can influence the way music is made. Not even to begin with AI's involvement in music
Well,
creation.
AI is the future. You don't need to make music anymore.
But I no,
But I want to, guys.
want to. Yeah,
Yeah. Dang. Technology, am I right?
yeah. That's another thing. I mean, this is kind of like a side curve, but back to being able to like having that block to being able to communicate your thoughts no matter how strong those feelings are. I feel like as much as I want to, sometimes I feel like, or I haven't like in all my like music shorts that I made on Instagram and TikTok, that I want to be able to talk and like express my persona more through those videos, but not that I can't, it's that through perception I feel like I haven't been able to, and that this podcast is a good stepping stone to be able to transition into being more upfront with that audience in music.
I like this. This has become like a Clay interview about your music.
It's it's to share with the audience, but this is also, I feel like, for the benefit of us, just having this conversation.
Do you think you got into music to be able to express those thoughts that you can't express with words because people consider music another language? Kind of?
Yeah, I think to a certain extent, like, music will create a certain environment in your mind, or it'll create a certain environment that could relate to nostalgia or personal experiences in life. Because it's interesting how, like, a population of people can connect to one song despite everyone having their individual own human experience and being on their own path.
Mm-hmm. I'd say they do have different interpretations of the same songs, but like the feeling that they get from that song is probably like the same in that group of people.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of cool that everybody can feel that one.
Yeah.
A feeling. From
It's what connects people.
What you said about how nostalgic music can be, I think that's a I don't know, I don't want to sound bland. That's just an interesting thing that you brought up.
No, yeah,
Because
of course.
I remember hearing about like Alzheimer's patients who can't remember a whole lot of things that happened in their life, obviously, because that's what Alzheimer's does to you. But they can remember instances of specific songs and stuff like that. So when they hear that music that they heard from maybe their childhood or important events that happened in their life, they can instantly remember like those things. Right?
Yeah.
But it's just like how does that work? It's just like goes to show the power of music.
I just like I believe that like nostalgia is a feeling that exists within humans to protect their identity, to keep them, to remind them of who they are. Because those memories that are created when they're young, or when they're first understanding the world, before all this programming goes through with jobs, society, socialization, education.
To be a functioning member of society with the same like beliefs as before you become a sheep of society.
That's why I feel like in a way, like when you're like in the first few years of life, you have a certain brilliance, because that's like comes from like minimal programming, that you're even though you haven't absorbed as much knowledge about the processes and like how the world works around you, that you think in a way that's most uninterrupted and like honest, like how
more like original.
Like kids can be like brutally honest about their thoughts.
I really miss that feeling. I wish people were just more honest with each other, like how kids were.
Does it ever like annoy you when like I guess someone feels a way, like someone's thinking a certain way or could be like upset at you or something, and they're just not expressing that to you?
Yeah.
It's like that could annoy me, but at the same time, like I do that too, and that like it's because it's like it's not like the older you get, it's not easy to do that, because it's like you don't want to hurt people's feelings, but also if you don't say anything, then it feel like it that hurts you.
And I think it's just annoying for both parties, because like you said, it hurts you keeping in that thing that you want to like tell them, and it hurts the other party because if they know that you're holding something back from them, it's annoying because like you can't bring it up to that person, because you technically have no reason to hate on them or hate them for their actions, because they kind of have a safeguard by not saying what they're actually thinking. You know,
it's the situation, and then
when you get put in a situation,
when you get put in a situation, but yeah, like, and then like when that happens, it feels like you feel a little bit more distance from that person because you can't express how you truly feel. And even though it's something that's hard to do, and that's like that creates a lot of discomfort, that is where like connection between people is rooted in like their honest thought process, and maybe not using the right words or explaining something so academically, but like being on the same page energetically.
I wish it could be. I think I talked to you about this 2 days ago when we conjured up this idea.
When we just decided to do this. Yeah.
There's like two personalities I think I have. Number one is like, what did I say? That's like the sad me, I guess, and then rational me, who always like rationalizes all the sad stuff and makes me feel better. I think in that environment, like you have those two identical copies of yourself. I wouldn't want them to be identical, actually. I'd want a sad version of myself to exist, and then the rational person. And then I'd want those two to interact and see how this guy makes sense of this guy, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I want to see the rational guy, like, talk sense into the sad guy and try to, like, uplift him, I guess.
That makes sense, yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, do you ever feel like you can give advice to other people on issues or things that you're still trying to figure out yourself?
Yeah, and then like you never listen to your own advice, right?
Yeah, like it's like you have all the advice you need or tools you need. It's just that it's easier to give that advice than actually internalizing it, because internalizing that change is like can be the hardest part of the process.
I think, yeah, internalizing the change. I think what happens is that it's easier to see something from a different perspective to somebody else, if that makes sense. So, like, you can tell somebody to do something because you're not the one actually doing it, obviously. You're not the one feeling those emotions and going through the effort. But if it's yourself and you're trying to, like, change something, somebody else could come and say the exact same thing that you would say. And you'd be like, yeah, that's obvious. Like, duh.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But since you're in the moment and feeling those emotions, like, you've probably already thought so much about it. You've probably overthought it a lot. And what was I going to say? The train of thought is not training.
No, all good. It's like, as I'm saying things, it's like how we were saying before about the pressure. Like there's these ideas that we want to communicate and that we want to build off of each other, but it's like that excitement is
Yeah.
making it harder to explain those things in the first place.
It's like you feel like you have a profound thought, and you're like, oh, where to go?
Like we're literally examining like our own thought process, like what we were saying before is playing out right now.
Well, this is metacognition.
This is
right
hella
here.
meta, yeah.
So, I think what happens is in your own head you rationalize, or you give like excuses for not doing something. Like
Yeah.
you can dish out the advice to other people, but when it's applied to you, you give reasons why it would be better not to do stuff, or you think, well, my situation is actually different for
Yeah.
A, B, and C, right?
Exactly. You rationalize to protect yourself or feel like you're protecting yourself when you're protecting yourself from what is needed to feel better.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, you don't care. Okay, obviously you do care about the other person that you're giving advice to.
Yeah.
But it's like, it doesn't impact you at all whether or not the advice actually goes through or flops.
Mm-hmm. So when you're explaining that idea, you're able to like communicate it in free flow because it's not like you're telling yourself to do that it's not like you're holding yourself accountable, so it's the pure thought itself without that weight of holding yourself accountable to it. So you feel like you can express it more clearly.
Exactly. Couldn't have put it better myself. You're not the one accountable for it. Well, technically you are, but
As much as you that's up to you in the end.
yeah, I guess if you can completely separate other people's emotions from like how if you're not very sympathetic, then it's probably better because you can separate other people's emotions and they won't affect you at all.
Like
I
if we're
cannot deal with it.
if we're to break the fourth wall right now, this is our first episode, and it's like we're like going through the motions helps a lot to develop that skill of being able to converse and go into these topics
Yeah.
on the spot. Just by the fact that we're attempting to do it and that we're actually here and we're doing it rather than thinking of it, because this is the only way to improve upon that. Like I'm halfway there. I feel like I'm halfway awake with this because it's like I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable to that point of communicating that, but at the same time, I'm still like in that subconscious pressure state to communicate that on a podcast.
So you have to kind of like filter it through podcast lingo.
Almost.
Not lingo, but
But then again, with time, as we're actually doing this, it'll get easier.
yeah, I do feel kind of limited because this is a podcast and we kind of have to. I feel like there's a lot more self-monitoring going on with my language. Like I try to make less errors and stuff.
Despite the desire to actually say what you want to say.
Yeah, because like also, you kind of have to explain your thoughts very precisely. You know.
Yeah, to be
That
able
way-
to be understood.
Yeah. As opposed to if it was just like a normal conversation between you and me, I'd maybe
Yeah.
give a little bit of detail
Mhm.
and then you'd ask more and I'd expand on it.
Because it's also like depending on the relationship you have with a certain person or who you're talking to or who your audience is, that you can explain a certain thought or context with different words because that's just how they're raised and that's just how they perceive things.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's like it's easier to talk to your family maybe than a
Yeah.
random person on the street because you guys already know each other.
Or someone you grew up with or a friend or a colleague that you spent a lot of time with just because you have that collection of story, that collection of shared experiences where you can communicate those thoughts that go beyond the tool of words themselves, but through shared story or shared reality.
What's a shared story / reality that me and you have? Have we ever both been like emotionally distressed at one point and we've both gone through it?
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm sure.
All the time. Every single time we're together,
It feels
we're
like
emotionally
that.
distressed.
That's another thing. It feels like when you're just distressed in general, when you're going through it, that it feels like that in that moment, it feels like it's never going to end, or that it feels like you're always going through that, and that you just forget when you're the moments of peace you have when you're in that state of mind, because it creates an illusion that that's the eternal position you're in.
I always think about that when I'm sick. You know, like when your nose gets dry and stuff, and it like hurts to use like tissues and stuff on it. When I'm in the moment and my nose is very dry, I'm like, oh, this is so painful. I don't even remember what it's like when my nose was normal.
Yeah.
Even though that's like the state it's been for the entirety of my life.
Exactly. I feel like my nose will run at the most inconvenient times when I
Yeah.
feel like I just can't deal with this, and it just like it creates this irritation where I feel like this always happens even though it doesn't.
And then like the second it's normal, you forget that like it was even like runny in the first place.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Because when you're in that state of joy, when you're in that state of bliss, you're not keeping track of time. I'm listening to this audiobook called "Don't Believe Everything You Think," and I'm only like 4 chapters in, but like what it goes through in the first couple phases or first couple chapters is like how suffering itself is not rooted in, it's not at equal to positive and negative mind states aren't equal in the way that they come from the same source, but that negative state of mind, that feeling of suffering, feeling of I can't get out of this, that it comes from thinking itself. That by recognizing that we're just thinking and that we're just not observing thoughts, but going along with the thoughts we're having, that it distances from reality and that it just goes into a pitfall. Again, thanks everyone who took time out of their day to listen to the Genuine Thoughts podcast. As much as the idea is still forming, we'll be back next week. And yeah, I'm Clay. I like deep chats and making music. And we have Gonzalo.
I'm Gonzalo, kind of a nerd. Try to act smart, but it just comes off pretentious.
And we embrace that full self.
Honesty is the best policy. That's what they teach you in kindergarten.
That's
right?
why we're here.
Also, everybody, if there are people out there listening behind this camera, behind these screens, go listen to Clay's music. Go subscribe to his Instagram as well.
If you enjoy my music, please share if you can. To grow the page. Full finished projects are on the way, I promise.
Getting this man to 1 million followers by the end of the year.
We're gonna get we are gonna get some music up on streaming services this year, so stay tuned for that.
Really?
I can't give a specific date, I can't promise, but the goal is never changing. So yeah, that's what we're aiming for.
That sounds good. Shall we call it a day?
Yeah. Thanks
Alright.
everyone for our time.
Thanks everyone. It's been nice chatting these genuine thoughts with all of you guys.
Yep. And till next week.
Bye bye.